Grab your aprons. Today, we're cooking up a road victory in Lexington. What ingredients do the Longhorns need? I've got the cookbook on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Can Texas do something against a Power 4 team that they haven't done all year? We'll get to that a little bit later. Plus, it's a big Saturday for scouting future Longhorn opponents. But first, bring out the pots and the pans because we're cooking today. What are we cooking? A road victory against Kentucky. How do we prepare this dish? Well, as with any meal, it all starts with the ingredients. Here's what Texas needs to bring with them to Kroger Field tomorrow. See, we're playing at a place sponsored by a grocery store. This all makes sense to me, anyways. Number one, the most important ingredient, the foundation of the dish that we're cooking up for a Texas road victory against the Kentucky Wildcats, the offensive line. And not just any offensive line, the offensive line that we saw in the second half against Oklahoma. The one we saw against Florida, that one's expired. It's stale. It's moldy. It's nasty. Throw that away. We don't need it. We don't want it. The one we saw in the final 30 minutes of Red River, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Farm fresh right there. Farm to table. Texas was able to wear down the vaunted Oklahoma defensive line as last week's game went along, and the Horns started to lean on the Sooners defense in the third and fourth quarters. The offensive line combination, Trevor Gooseby, Nick Brooks, Cole Hudson, DJ Campbell, Brandon Baker, they got the job done. Texas ran for nearly 100 yards in the second half alone. Only one sack of Arch Manning last week, 0 penalties for the offensive line in the final 3 quarters at the Cotton Bowl. It was the best half of football that we've seen from that group all year long. Was it perfect? No. We've talked about that this week, but it was definitely progress from what we had seen 7 days prior at Florida. Now, we know that one part of this offensive line ingredient won't be available tomorrow. Cole Hudson, Texas's starting center, has been ruled out. We saw that on Wednesday night's injury report. Of course, that did not change last night. But replacing Cole Hudson, you've got Connor Robertson, a fourth-year player, a guy who's appeared in 23 career games. He started as well. Hudson wasn't playing all that great anyways. So hopefully the drop-off there isn't too much, and hopefully that group is able to still win up front. It felt like the Longhorns found something with that combination last week. Nick Brooks, a much better showing for him at left guard. Hopefully we can see Texas do the same thing they did in the second half against OU. And last year against Kentucky, the Longhorn offensive line dominated for all 4 quarters here in Austin. Texas ran the ball 46 times for 251 yards against the Wildcats a season ago. And the offensive line showed up. Only 1 sack, only 4 TFLs. That was an easy 31-14 win. We're hoping to cook something like that up in Lexington. So that's the base. There's your dough. I've decided mid-segment that we're making a pizza here. So the dough is the offensive line, the first ingredient. What else is on a pizza? Well, all pizzas have cheese, right? In this case, the cheese is going to be the Texas pass rush. The Longhorn pass rush feasted on John Mateer last week. 5 sacks, tying for a Texas season high. Of course, all 3 of John Mateer's interceptions came because of the pass rush. He had pressure in his face, made some bad decisions, threw some inaccurate balls. Texas took advantage, and honestly, Texas could have had 4, 5, maybe even 6 picks against John Mateer with the way the pass rush was hitting home. We spent a segment yesterday talking about the depth of this edge room and talking about how it felt like they finally came into their own against Oklahoma. So much talent, so much depth, so much potential. Felt like it took a while for them to get things going, but last weekend we saw that group on full display. Colin Simmons looking like the preseason All-American. He had 2.5 sacks. Brad Spence, the Arkansas transfer, played well. Lance Jackson, the true freshman, continues to see his role increase. You got Ethan Burke. You've got Colton Vasek. You've got Zena Umeozolu. There's talent there. There's depth there. And you need those guys to show up because Cutter Boley, Kentucky's quarterback, he'll give you some opportunities. He is very bad down the field, just 3 for 21 on deep balls this year. Under pressure, 5 for 17 with 2 interceptions. He only has 85 passing attempts this season. He hasn't started every game for Kentucky, which is why those numbers are so low. In those 85 attempts, he has 7 turnover-worthy throws. You get pressure in his face, he is going to give you some opportunities. And Kentucky, their offensive line is big, they're experienced, but I think their biggest weakness up front is their tackles in pass pro. So on paper, Texas edge room, Kentucky tackles, that should be advantage Longhorns. Make that happen. And you'd love to see the Horns get pressure without bringing any blitzers too. When he's not blitzed, Cutter Boley, 28 of 54, 328 yards, 3 interceptions. So he hasn't been that good without being blitzed. If you're able to get pressure without blitzing, that's part of a great recipe. Make him stand in the pocket, bring a 4-man rush, force him to make real throws into coverage, because if you do that, he's going to throw the ball to you. So a good pass rush, like cheese, is versatile. Bunch of different kinds of cheese. You get a bunch of different things when you get a good pass rush. Sacks, quarterback hits, interceptions, forced fumbles. Y'all know the deal. That's another key ingredient. Number 3, what else is on a pizza? The sauce. Texas needs to bring the sauce. They need the energy. You can call it the sauce if you want. There have been too many times this year, especially in Texas's true road games, where they kind of look dead on the sideline. And I know they didn't get off to good starts against Ohio State and Florida. We'll talk more about that in segment 2. And you want something good to happen for you so you can get excited, but you have to bring your own juice in games on the road. And the mood on the Texas sideline in Columbus and in Gainesville just wasn't there. I know Kroger Field isn't the shoe and it isn't the swamp, but it's a Saturday night. It's a sellout crowd. Kentucky has never hosted Texas before. Like, you don't think their fan base is going to bring the energy? And Kentucky, obviously the home team, they are going to feed off that crowd. You cannot not bring the sauce. What kind of pizza are we making without sauce? This Texas team is not good enough to just waltz into anywhere in this conference and expect to win. You have to have the energy, and you have to bring it early. In Dallas last weekend, it was evident. It was a night and day difference from what we saw in the swamp. The sidelines were incredible last Saturday. The offense supported the defense supported the offense. Everybody was going nuts when Ryan Niblett had that 75-yard punt return touchdown in the fourth quarter. That has to continue. Texas cannot afford to fall back into lackadaisical enthusiasm habits that, again, we've seen in their only 2 true road games this year. Guys need to pump each other up. Even if things aren't always going great, Steve Sarkisian called this an SEC championship. You cannot afford another loss if you want to get to the SEC title or if you want to make it to the playoff. That should be enough to get you pumped up right there. Bring the sauce, bring the juice, the energy, whatever you want to call it. They're all synonyms. And last but not least, good pizza needs toppings, right? How about some pineapple? Everyone's favorite. Now let's go with pepperoni, a classic here. The last ingredient is discipline. There's your pepperoni. We saw how important not committing penalties was last week. Texas played its cleanest game of the year, only 4 accepted penalties, and it was without question their best performance from top to bottom against a real opponent. Heck, we even saw it within the game, right? Texas had penalty issues that killed drives in the first half. They stopped shooting themselves in the foot in the second half, and the offense found its rhythm. Like, Texas is so much better than Kentucky. So much better. Better talent, better coaching, better scheme, better everything. The only way you lose or even have this be a 4-quarter dogfight is if you're your own worst enemy. No lit in the pregame playlist in the locker room, please. We don't need to be our own worst enemy here. Discipline. Be disciplined. You're going to commit penalties. I get it. But how about 4 instead of the 10 we saw in Texas's last road game at Florida? would like to see a much cleaner game. And discipline means being smart with your decision-making too. Limit the turnovers, limit the penalties. That's your last ingredient. So there you go. Those 4 ingredients, the offensive line, the pass rush, the energy, the discipline. There's your pizza. You have that, you will have yourself a road victory in Lexington and a nice slice of pizza to boot. If those ingredients don't make the trip, well, tomorrow's postgame is not going to be a lot of fun. There you go. What say you? Did you like my metaphor? You probably didn't. Hopefully you didn't hate it too much, but that's what I think the Longhorns need to travel with them for tomorrow's game. All right. Will the 4th time be a charm? Texas has struggled to start fast in all 3 Power 4 games this year. Can they finally do it tomorrow? We'll discuss on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Longhorns, Arch Manning, the MVP against Oklahoma, played a clean game, was so smart with the football, was so clutch. He showed up when it mattered most, and he's starting to put a string of good games together. I don't think it was a fluke. Arch Manning's on a bit of a streak. I think it's going to continue. And just like Arch delivered for the Longhorns, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And also some love to our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. They've got more than 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast, Supply House has next day delivery, a total game changer, and their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and a dedicated support line makes everything smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score those serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. It's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, welcome back. Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Happy Friday to each and every one of you out there. Unfortunately, slow starts have become synonymous with the 2025 Texas Longhorns. And honestly, this issue was prevalent in 2023 and 2024, but the slow start infection, if you will, has spread even more in 2025. Texas has played 3 games against Power 4 opponents so far. Let's take a look at the first 3 possessions in each of those games, on offense and on defense. We'll start with the offense because it's been worse on that side of the ball. So 9 total possessions, the first 3 against Ohio State, first 3 against Florida, first 3 against Oklahoma. On those 9 possessions, Texas has scored 1 time. It was a touchdown against Florida after the Horns were already down 10-0 early. So 1 touchdown, 0 field goals on 9 drives. That is ugly, but it gets worse. On those drives, Texas is averaging just 4 yards per play. They're also averaging less than 3 yards per rush. They are 1 for 10 on third down. Forget touchdowns. They only have 8 first downs total on those 9 possessions. We talked about discipline in the last segment. How about 9 accepted penalties for 85 yards on those 9 drives? More penalties than first downs early in games. Not good. Not good. They can't run. They can't pass. They can't keep drives alive on third down. They can't stay ahead of the chains. All of those things combined is a recipe for slow starts for the offense. It's got to change. Now let's go to the defense. The defense has been better, but, low bar to clear. But even they have struggled early on compared to what they do the rest of the way. Last week against Oklahoma, the Sooners had their best drive right out of the gate. Get the ball first, march down the field pretty quickly, get into field goal range, go up 3-0 just like that. 2 weeks ago in the Swamp, Florida gets the ball first. Texas almost forces a turnover on the first play. They can't recover it. Florida marches down the field, long drive, touchdown, 7-0. The first 3 possessions against Ohio State, Florida, and Oklahoma, again, 9 total, Texas has given up 20 points. 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, points on 4 of them. Again, not horrible, but not up to par with what we expect from Pete Kwiatkowski's group. Opponents also have 21 first downs. Remember, Texas only has 8 on offense. Opponents have 21 in these starts of games. And other teams are also 7 for 13 on third downs early against Texas. That's more than 50%, well above the season average for this Texas defense. So the defensive numbers aren't horrible by any stretch, but compared to, again, the way they play in quarters 2, 3, and 4, they're a bit surprising. It feels like it's taken them a little bit of time to get into a groove as well, especially in conference play. Again, opening drive for Florida, touchdown. They actually scored points on their first 2 drives in the swamp. Last week for Oklahoma, 3 points, the easiest time the Sooners had moving the ball down the field the entire way. Taking them some time. Obviously, the offensive issues have been the bigger issue. You just take a look back at the OU game. Penalties and negative plays plagued the Horns' first 3 drives. Texas had 40 total yards on 3.1 yards per play. They were 0 for 3 on third down in the first 3 possessions of the game. Only 13 plays total on those 3 drives. Not very good. Meanwhile, Oklahoma had 19 snaps on their first 3 drives of the game. Now, look, Texas turned it on and they pulled away from Oklahoma. That's the good. But imagine what that game in Dallas could have been if Texas showed up early. And imagine if the Longhorn offense did anything in the first half against Ohio State. And imagine if the Longhorns started faster in the swamp. Like, I know ifs and nuts, and if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my, whatever the expression is. We could be talking about a very different season if the Horns were just starting faster, right? You are flirting with disaster like Molly Hatchet if you don't show up until an hour after kickoff every Saturday. And it's obvious because Texas is 1-2 in those 3 Power 4 games this year. So the proof is already in the pudding. I don't think I'm saying anything outlandish here. Slow starts killed Texas in Columbus, and they killed Texas in the swamp. You don't want to be playing catch up, especially on the road, especially in this league. Game starts 6 o'clock. Be ready to go at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Don't wait until it's 7, 7:30, 8. Don't wait until quarter number 3 before you start to figure some things out. If you want to run the table, make it to the college football playoff, play for an SEC title game, you're going to need to show up earlier. No penalties on offense. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. Get the ground game going. Get Arch Manning into a rhythm early. The quick passing game worked really well against Oklahoma. Let's not have that be a one-off. Do that again, and then force Kentucky to move up a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. You can open up some opportunities over the top, right? Defense, start faster. Maybe force a takeaway to help spark something for the Longhorn offense. Play a little complimentary football. We saw it in the second half, and it was great. Let's see it for all 4 quarters. They say the 4th time's a charm, right? I think that's the expression. 4th time's a charm. Well, hopefully it will be for the first quarter Texas Longhorns. Because, again, 3 games against Power 4 teams, they just haven't started well in any of them. Another road game tomorrow, another road game next Saturday. Bring the juice. Goes back to the first segment. You have to be ready to go from the opening kick. You do not want Kentucky's crowd to get in the game and stay in the game. You've got a chance to turn them early. I think they're ready for a new coach, just like Florida. Couldn't do that in the swamp. Hopefully you can do that in Lexington. All right, what say you? Do you agree? What's your confidence level that Texas can finally start fast in one of these games? Want to hear from y'all in the comments below. All right, one segment left. Friday edition, Locked On Longhorns. I don't want to overlook Kentucky. I feel like that's obvious. We've spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking about tomorrow's game. But Tomorrow will give us some great opportunities to scout the Longhorns' remaining opponents. Some big games around the conference that I want to talk about. We'll do that next on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them before. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Go Long. This isn't just another ED pill. This is a total game changer for your confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects last up to 36 hours, so you've got confidence all day, all night, even into the next day as well. And the process with Rougiet is simple. You connect with a board-certified doctor. Everything's 100% online. And if you're prescribed, your treatment is going to ship discreetly right to your door. You ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rougiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for 15% off. Make sure to use the code so they know that we sent you. And some love to our friends at FanDuel as well. Another great NFL weekend is right around the corner. And our friends at FanDuel have an offer that you do not want to miss. Told you at the start of the episode, I'll tell you again. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. It is that simple. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. It makes my Sundays so much more entertaining. And of course, when you have a little riding on the action, it's going to make everything more exciting. So whether you're a casual fan or you're a diehard, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So many ways to play, so many ways to win. So what are you waiting for? Take advantage of this great offer today. Head to FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started. All right, back here, Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Final segment of a Friday show. There are 5 games in the SEC tomorrow outside of Texas, Kentucky that I will be locked in on. 4 of them involve a future team on the Longhorn schedule. And the 5th one is Oklahoma at South Carolina. We'll start with that one first. Obviously, Texas doesn't play the fake USC this year. The Oklahoma game's already in the rearview mirror. That was fun, wasn't it? Man, I'd like to play them again. Had a good time in Dallas last week. But I am fascinated to see how the Sooners respond after getting embarrassed by Texas. How does John Mateer play? This guy was the Heisman favorite before he got hurt 4 weeks into the season. Does he go back to looking like a Heisman contender? Probably can't be a Heisman contender anymore after what he did against Texas, but does he look like that guy, or has he been exposed? Will the Sooners be able to run the football? They couldn't against the Longhorns. What happens if OU loses? Have you seen Oklahoma's schedule after tomorrow? They have some brutal games left. South Carolina is 3-3. They've been a disappointment so far. Oklahoma is a 5 to 6 point favorite. This would be a horrible loss for Brent Venables. People were really hyping up BV after their 5-0 start. Lost to Texas, don't even score a touchdown again. You lose to South Carolina. The Boo Birds may be out next time Oklahoma plays a home game, and the hot seat conversations may start to pick up once again for the Sooner faithful. You rooting for OU? Part of me is like, I kind of want Brent Venables to stick around, so I hope he does enough just to keep his job for another couple of years, because Steve Sarkisian clearly has his number. All right, so that's one game. The games with more meaning to future Texas, because the Longhorns will play some of these teams the rest of the way. We'll go in order of kick time, 11 a.m., LSU at Vanderbilt. Huge game. And if Vandy wins, people are going to be talking about them as a college football playoff team. I think this is a CFP elimination game with both of these teams coming in with one loss. Vandy, 5-1 on the year. Their only loss in Tuscaloosa. They were right there with Bama for a while. Bama pulled away late. But, man, Diego Pavia versus an elite LSU defense that I think is around as good as Texas is. We will see how he holds up. And then LSU's offense has been awful. Can they figure it out against Vandy? Or does Vandy have a little something on that side of the ball as well? We're going to learn a lot about the Doors these next two games, LSU and then Missouri, back-to-back before their trip to Austin on November 1st. That's one that I will definitely be paying attention to. 2:30, A&M at Arkansas. Of course, the Horns will play both of these teams. Final 2 weeks of the year, A&M is unbeaten, 3-0 in the SEC. All three of their conference games have been at home. Their next three are on the road. The Aggies have owned Arkansas since joining the SEC. They're 12-1 against the Hogs. Bobby Petrino back in the saddle in Fayetteville. Can he lead them to an upset? Arkansas nearly beat Ole Miss this year. They played pretty close to Tennessee last week. They've got some talent. Their offense is really good. Can they hang with Texas A&M and maybe pull off a stunning upset? I don't see it, but I'll be rooting for it. That's at 2:30. Another 2:30 game. Ole Miss at Georgia. Of course, the Horns in Athens on November 15th. The Dogs could easily have 3 losses right now. Again, you get back to the ifs and buts and whatever conversation. But, Tennessee had Georgia on the ropes. They make that field goal at the buzzer. Georgia loses that. If the refs don't say that Jackson Arnold fumbled at the goal line, he didn't. That was a touchdown. But if that touchdown stands and Auburn goes up 17-0, maybe Georgia loses last week at Jordan-Hare. Who knows? Instead, Georgia only has 1 loss. Now, last year, Georgia lost to Ole Miss in Oxford. This is a revenge game for them. Ole Miss did not play well against Washington State. Feels kind of obvious that they were overlooking the Cougs a week ago. Can Ole Miss make it happen again on the road? Georgia's a 7.5-point favorite. That feels like a big line. Georgia's been playing with fire a little bit lately. Will they get burnt tomorrow afternoon? Obviously, we'll be locked in. If Georgia loses that'd be 2 home losses this year. They hadn't lost 1 home game since 2019. Obviously, Bama got them in Athens earlier. They lose to Ole Miss. I'm going to be feeling a lot better about the Horns' chances to go to Sanford in mid-November and get a W. And then last but not least, 3:15, Mississippi State at Florida. Of course, Texas will be in Starkville to play the Bulldogs next Saturday. This could be Billy Napier's last game. All kinds of reports throughout the week saying that he will get fired next week. Can Mississippi State deliver the final nail in his coffin? Bulldogs are a road favorite. Remember, Mississippi State was 2-10 last year, and they're 0-2 in the SEC this year. That's how bad it is for Florida right now. They are home dogs against that team. How did we lose to them? It's going to hurt for a while. But look, Florida did enough against Texas to save Billy's job for at least another week. Can they do enough to save his job tomorrow? Is the writing already on the wall? Is this thing in Sharpie? I don't know. How does Mississippi State play, though? They've been better this year. That doesn't feel as easy of a win as maybe it did at the start of the season. So how do they look? Obviously, Texas fans will be tuned into that before the 6 o'clock kickoff in Lexington. So, yeah, some huge games in the SEC. I didn't even mention Tennessee at Alabama. Texas doesn't play those teams, so I didn't talk about it. But you've got some compelling matchups, to say the least, in this conference tomorrow. It's getting good. It is getting good. All right. Enjoy the football. That'll do it for today's episode. If you made it this far, number 1, God bless you. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. All of those great things. Really do appreciate y'all's continued support of Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. If you're looking for some picks for the football weekend, my buddy Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have you covered. Expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day. They have everything that you need. You can find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Win or lose, we'll have a post-game show tomorrow late in the evening. Hopefully we are celebrating a Longhorn victory. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the football this weekend. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.